Okay, today we were playing a game on Nepal. We were playing Winston the entire way through, and this was a competitive game, but it happened during placement, so who knows what the SR is doing. You might notice that we aren't on Nepal right now. We're actually in the training range. You would be correct, and that is because of the question in today's email, which is... Admittedly, this is not the best game as a demonstration of this question, but I feel like I've been facing an increasing number of Widowmakers that are capable of hitting Winston on the approach and/or are sufficiently close to their team/babysat that leaping onto them feels ineffective. How should I approach this as Winston? Should I switch tanks if I feel this is the case? So the first part, if the Widowmaker is going to shoot you, or if anybody's going to shoot you as they're approaching, this is just something that is usually blanketly better to do as Winston. Now, Winston doesn't have very many mechanics. He's a pretty simple guy. He's largely about game sense and decision-making, but he does have some mechanics, and I'm about to share one of his secret mechanics with you right now. When you're approaching the enemy, what you want to do usually is jump, and then spin around in the air as you're approaching so that you fly at them ass first, because then you can't get shot in the head as you're approaching, and getting shot in the head makes you take a lot more damage, oddly enough. And if it's a Widowmaker, it'll be a big difference. But just like anything, really, doing this is going to be an improvement. Because if it's just like, I don't know, Korea, soldier, anything really, like, you can't get shot in the head as you're approaching. And, you know, you're going to do slightly less damage, probably, because you're not going to tase the person as you're approaching. Or at least not until you get, like, really used to doing it. Because it is admittedly a little bit awkward to do. But you'll take a lot less damage as you're approaching, and that can make all the difference, especially for somebody like Winston. So, just wanted to show what that kind of looked like, because I think it makes a little bit more sense seeing it happen rather than just describing it, because then you imagine it from the perspective of the outside, like watching Winston flying at you ass first, and it doesn't seem like something you should be doing, but you should do it, actually. The other part, if they're close to their team or being babysat, there is no fantastic answer to that question, because that is basically what you're meant to do against Winston. If you're all together, Winston jumps into you, you kill Winston, because you all just turn on him and kill the Winston. And admittedly, sometimes teams do that and they don't actually kill the Winston because they're just bad, but that's a whole different issue. So, the best thing you can do, and this is going to be very hit or miss depending on the game, of course, but the best thing you can do is try and coordinate with your team. Because if you've got a Zarya on your team, you go, alright, I'm jumping in now. Zarya bubbles you as you jump in, and then you'll land, and you got the bubble on you. Suddenly makes it a lot harder to kill you, you can't be CC'd, and then you get to do more work in the enemy team. Otherwise, you can like try and coordinate a push. If you've got a flanker with you, you can try and coordinate with them so that you dive in, then they follow in and pick somebody off, you know. And this is going to be really hit or miss depending on the game, obviously, because your team has to actually work with you on this one at least a little bit. But that's one thing you can do. Just clustering together and helping each other is what you do against Winston, so it's always going to be kinda awkward. If you just feel like there's nothing at all you can do, like you're just jumping in and you just feel like you can't jump in without dying, then you should just change to a different tank, because ultimately, if you're not being effective on a hero, you should look at that and think, okay, why am I not being effective right now? Is it because I'm doing something wrong? Or is there just realistically not much my hero can do right now? And if you feel like Winston's not working because you're trying to, if it's specifically that you're trying to jump on the Widowmaker, you can try changing to Diva, because she has a little bit of a safer approach with, Defense Matrix, and she also has a bit more shock and awe because of the missiles as well, so you can just kind of jump in, do a lot of damage to people if they're clustered together. And then eventually you build up your ultimate, you can throw that in and it forces them to scatter, that kind of thing. If it is a Widowmaker specifically, Reinhardt is good because you can just get your team to group up behind you and advance in behind the Reinhardt shield, because if one of their DPS is a Widowmaker, they can't be that good at breaking your shield. Unless the other DPS, I suppose, is like Bastion. But then, they've probably got bigger issues, honestly, the way this community goes. So, if there's a Widowmaker, Reinhardt shield blocks the shots. You do have to be really careful, because if the Widowmaker is good, and in this context we're assuming she is good because she can actually shoot you as you're flying at her, she's going to be waiting for the second you take your shield down to try and shoot somebody. Because advice for playing against Reinhardt is you aim as though his shield was not there. And I don't mean ignore the shield, it's just like, most people just aim generally at Reinhardt's shield. If there's people behind him, you should aim at the person behind the shield, because then if Reinhardt takes the shield down, you're shooting that person. So if the Widowmaker's good, she's just going to be hovering over somebody behind your shield, and as soon as you, like, fire strike or something, she's like, pop, dead. So, Reinhardt is good against Widowmaker as long as your team, again, actually groups up with you, and then you advance in with your team. Some maps will also make this easier or harder as well. Something like Route 66, if the Widow's good, she can do, like, hook shots off the geometry and shoot over your shield and things like that, but, Reinhardt is good against Widowmaker, because you can block the shot, so hopefully that answers the question. Basically, like, if they're grouped up together, Winston's gonna have a hard time if you can't coordinate with your team, because they're playing around you. That's what they're meant to do, so at that point you need to get more creative. You need to either be extra patient to wait for your opportunity to actually jump in, and just kind of play more calm until that point, or you need to coordinate with your team somehow. You need to go in with someone else, you need to coordinate, like, the engage with the enemy team, something like that. And if you can't do that, then yeah, just change whichever tank you play to a different tank. Ultimately, you know, if I'm not doing anything, why is that? Am I fucking up? Is it my hero? And you gotta analyze it and figure out what the problem is. So, today's game though. Our current team composition is Reinhardt, Winston, McCree, Soldier 76, Anna, and Lucio. So the only remarkable thing about it is really we don't have a Mercy, which is very sad, because Mercy is still really strong. This replay would have been before Moira was in the game. Well, she was in the game, she wasn't in competitive at this point, so that would also kind of be sad, but I just, like, really like Moira, so maybe that's just a personal thing. Not having a Mercy is very sad, though. Other than that, not much to say about it. So let's start the game. Today's game is quite short, as you might have noticed, which is why we had this tirade right at the start. So, we come around the backside. We've got a Reinhardt with our team, so we have more liberty to actually come around and try to make this play where we jump directly onto their backline. And we find their Mercy, and we're after the Mercy, but, oh, she's right next to Anna, which makes it really difficult to kill her, because then they just start healing each other. Then we kind of come back up, and we're like, where the fuck is our team? And then we kind of walk around like, where's the enemy team, honestly? And this is just one of those games where one of those engages, rather, where I've got no clue what happened right there. Like, some kind of fight broke out in the side, and, like, our team just won really quickly. Like, it would have been interesting to see what they were up to over there, because we just jumped on the supports, then came back and we're like, where is everyone? Oh, the fight's over? We won? Great! Sometimes you don't have to do anything at all, and those are the best games to play, honestly. Some of my fondest memories are playing Reinhardt and just sitting on the payload while all 5 of my team run off ahead and kill the enemy team, and I'm just sitting back on the payload like, I'm contributing. Reinhardt's easy sometimes. It's a pretty easy hero in general, honestly. So, we're biting our time up here. We see Mercy, we're jumping on Mercy. Their Winston's dead. Mercy was basically dead when we arrived, and now their Genji is also dead, and now we're just going to tase Anna to death. So, they didn't perform that engage very well. Mercy went too far. Winston got fucked as soon as he arrived, because our team is pretty close together, it looks like. So I suspect what happened was he got stunned as soon as he arrived, and then he just got shot to death, and then Mercy was like, I'll save you! And no, that's not what happened. Don't try to save someone as Mercy, because you're more important than them. So we're biding our time again. We see the Mercy, we're coming for the Mercy. You can do more stuff like this, because if I can actually, like, get anything to work correctly, holy shit, do you see how everything just broke all at once right there? Isn't that incredible? So, Normally, I advise not against doing these kind of plays right here, because basically you remove yourself from the fight for a really long time by doing this kind of thing. But because of our team comp, we have more liberty to try and do this kind of thing, because think about what our team is, right? Obviously, we're missing Winston because we're out here right now. We're not really taking part in the fight. We're not there. We'd have to get over there to take part in the fight. So, people currently on the point are Reinhardt, McCree, 76, Anna, and Lucia. So, because we've got a Reinhardt who is the best frontline hero in the game, and 3 heroes that are just going to be sitting behind Reinhardt, they're going to be over there. They're pretty safe right now because Reinhardt's in the way. McCree's got CC. Anna's got CC. 76 has got the healing. Anna can grenade everybody. Suddenly they're really hard to kill. So, because our team is actually quite sturdy and hard to kill, at least in theory, we've got more freedom to try and do this kind of play, because ordinarily, this is not a great idea, because it's like, if they dive on your team right now while you're biding your time up here, by the time you arrive back over there, they might be dead. Hard for this team to die very suddenly, so we can sort of take ourselves out of the fight a little bit more and like bide our time to try and get on the Mercy immediately. And we do indeed get on the Mercy immediately. Mercy's dead now. And Genji came in with Dragon Blade, but like, his whole team's dead, so it didn't really get much done. And then he's running away with 1 HP, so as soon as we reload, he's dead. We could have killed this guy because he actually doesn't have his biotic field down, so we can kill this dude right now. And going back to what we were saying earlier with jumping at somebody ass first, if you are trying to run somebody down, we could probably run this guy down. But you're waiting for your jump cooldown, just turn around, because they're like slightly out of range or whatever, just turn around while you're running after them, and then they're shooting you in your ass while you're running after them, and then as soon as your jump cooldown is up, you turn around, jump at them, spin around again, spin on them, turn back around on them immediately, and you save a lot more HP that way. We could have probably killed that guy, especially since when people are reinforcing on this map as well, they always go that way. Like 100% of the time. Because that way takes slightly longer. So, soldiers running that way, he's probably you're not gonna run into people, so you can probably just run him down. Because they're gonna come around this way. And, hindsight's 20/20, we see him come this way. And then we kill him, run at him ass first, so that, he definitely doesn't kill us. And then we jump back out, get the health kit, come back around. Hey, good times. And then their soldier is staggered, because right as they're reinforcing, we're killing soldier, so then they're super staggered. And then this is a terrible time for them to be staggered, because we're currently at 81%. So, that's something that could also affect the outcome of the game. We obviously win this game. I don't think that would be too shocking to anybody, judging by how this game has gone so far, but Winston, do not laugh. Winston's main mechanic, honestly, is strategic use of your ass, so that you take less damage. Do not laugh, damn it. What did I just say? So, the Reaper is dead as soon as this fight starts, which is obviously terrible for them. D.Va's throwing her ult in, and miraculously we don't die. Isn't that incredible? But Reinhardt does. Now, Mercy uses GA, but she ends up dying. She does still manage to res their Reinhardt, which is sad for us because we're playing Winston, who is obviously bad at killing Reinhardt. It's okay, we're just avoiding him from now. We do run away from this Reaper, and Reaper is scary. We're kind of low HP right now, so it's understandable we'd be spooked. But we don't actually need to run away from the Reaper right now. Because, look what's running after the Reaper. It's fucking nano-boosted soldier. He doesn't have tac visor going anymore, but he's getting shot in the back by nano-boosted soldier, so he's getting fucked up. Bubble's still here. We've got our jump cooldown. We've got 200 HP. We can still fight this guy, and Soldier can probably kill him by himself anyway, but we can still take part in this fight. Realistically, he doesn't actually pose that much threat to us. And he actually turns away right as we jump out as well. Instead, we jump on this Genji, but the Genji is like super full HP and is under threat from no one else. That's pretty sick. You see that one? Let's watch that one again. So Genji is just gonna kill us because he's full HP and we're not. Nobody's there to help us with that one. It's a rare instance we would have been better off fighting the Reaper because of the things around the Reaper. And, Winston, largely about decision-making in game sense. It's things like that that can also lead to change the outcome of the game, because imagine the fight's a little bit closer and then suddenly we die because we picked a fight with the wrong person. Well, that can completely change the entire outcome of the round. Obviously it didn't, but it can, and that's the kind of thing that over a large enough period of time is going to add up. So, even though it's typically a bad match, like, think about it, right? As Winston, we elected to fight Genji over Reaper, and it ended up being the wrong decision because of the things that are happening around those heroes. And it's things like that. It's part of being, getting better as a player is knowing when you should break the rules, because it is the correct decision to do so. Because, on paper, it makes no sense. You were meant to fight the Reaper over the Genji? Yeah, you were actually in that situation. Generally you're not, but this is an exception to that rule. And part of getting better as a player is noticing these moments where you should break the rules, because it is actually the correct decision in this specific situation. Because, I give advice, and ultimately I can't tell you how to handle every single situation. I will just give you advice that is true most of the time, and then your growth as a player is eventually you realize, oh, this is what I should do, but in this specific circumstance, it's actually the wrong decision to do that, and I should do this. And it's about recognizing those moments and making those kind of plays that eventually starts to matter. In lower SRs, these things, they come up less often. The matches tend to be more chaotic and less formed at the same time, but, the percent, this is the kind of thing, it's 1% of games, this decision is wrong, so you should have done this, and then in that 1% of games, it affects the outcome of the game, and then, hey, win rate increased because I made the correct decision, even though I was, really weird. That was a really rambling and incoherent point. Hopefully it made sense. Alright, so here's Genji. He's not allowed to do that. Did you see that? He's not allowed to do that. So he's dead. Now we see Soldier, we jump on him. He's already dead when we arrive, so they're now missing both their DPS. We're on Zenyatta. We're a little low and don't have our bubble, so it's scary, but we get him in the end. Again, strategic use of your ass also. If you're in kind of a close fight and your bubble might decide it can be better to just stop trying to do damage to somebody so you turn away from them to wait half a second for your bubble to come up. Strategic use of Winston's ass is important, eventually. Not for a while. You have to actually get to the point where, the Widowmaker is actually shooting you as you approach and your team is actually playing together, As the enemy team becomes more competent, you also have to become more competent. Which is kind of well, duh, but, yeah. So, if you're in, silver, gold, probably don't need to worry too much about strategic use of your ass, but, as you get, plat and higher, probably, that's when it starts to matter more for Winston, because that's the point. I would say platinum is the point where teams, generally, people know how to play their hero, at least somewhat, by that point. If they have a Widowmaker, the Widowmaker is probably decently accurate, The Soldier probably knows that if he just, puts down his biotic field, he can fight you as Winston, that kind of thing. They probably start to know baseline, at least, how to play their hero. So, we are up here in the choke point doing this. Generally not a huge fan of just putting the bubble down in a choke point like that because it tends to not do much because Winston's bubble is really fragile like that. Found Widow, jumped on Widow, Widow dead. Good times, almost got Primal Rage, good to have. So we found the Zenyatta. We popped Primal Rage a little bit early, like we could commit to this one a little bit harder because we are only at 300 when we actually use it. Also, small efficiency thing, this kind of thing does start to matter. If you're gonna use Primal Rage, try to put your bubble down first. Not always feasible, depending on the situation that you're in, but you can't use your bubble while you're in Primal Rage, so you're usually better off putting it somewhere, even if it's not necessarily a fantastic location for it, just because that way the cooldown isn't sitting there unused over this 10-second period of time while you're in Primal Rage. And then when you come out of Primal Rage again, the bubble is almost off cooldown, so you just get slightly more efficiency out of your cooldowns, and then that starts to matter eventually as well. Don't necessarily worry about this if you're in, like, Silver, but you are just being slightly more efficient with your cooldowns, which is eventually will start to matter. So we ended up losing that fight because a bunch of people on our team kind of died really quickly, so no great surprise, really. We do only have one actual healer right now because we do no longer have a Lucio. I believe they were the one that changed to Sombra. So, you know, we've got hacked health kits around, but we only have one actual healer. So it is also in our best interest to make sure that Anna doesn't die. So, being as we are Winston, if we see somebody trying to go for Anna, like anybody really, we should just try and get over there to help the Anna. Because she is our only actual healer. There goes Zenyatta. Just walking our way over here, and then from our own spawn... that's unusual, isn't it? So, we jump on their backline. Zenyatta's here, but he's mostly out of Transcendence by this point. Their soldier uses Tac Visor, but Earth Shatter, and then the Victory Lap Emp as everybody's dead. And, yeah, we didn't really have to do anything, because half of them just got killed, and then the other half just got killed as well, actually, just by a different person. So, that's nice. So, unsurprisingly, yeah, we win this game. So, we were jumping over here. We tried to jump on Widow, but Sombra actually killed Widow before we even got here, so unnecessary. Then we see Genji over there, like, oh, let's go get Genji. No, Genji's fucking dead as well, so we're like, fuck, I guess I'll just pin Zenyatta in the corner and bully him instead. I helped. This is a pretty good map for Sombra, though, because controlling the health kits around this map can make a big difference, actually, because, like, these health kits over here are actually pretty strong, and then the health kits on the staircases next to the high ground are also pretty strong, so being able to control them is pretty good. Even just the health kit over by the ledge is pretty good to control. So this Genji's really bad. He pulls out his blade 1v6 while purple, and yeah, it didn't work. And we win the game. And it wasn't very close. We didn't even necessarily have to do that much, which is honestly the best game of Overwatch when you don't really have to do very much. You know? So we got play of the game. It's right here where we stole it, basically. Like, two other play of the games happened, right? Well, it's mostly Reinhardt's, isn't it? Really? Hey, easy money. Easy money. Or we upvote ourselves. Oh, no. So, not very much stands out in this game because, you know. But we still had some things to talk about, and I thought the question in the email was worth addressing, so we did it anyway, even though there wasn't really that much to say about this game in particular. So, thank you very much for watching. If you did, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer. If you felt I answered your question from the email inadequately, please let me know, and I'll try to expand further, and I hope you found the video helpful.